Recent studies have shown that people have started using TikTok as a search engine because they believe that the information on there is more recent, and also they appreciate the short content. However, the problem with short content is that you're only seeing the snippets of the big picture, which means that information can often be misleading because you misinterpret only that bit of information. So I believe that it's best to go straight to the source. And I happened to run into one of these great sources today. This is ginger from the blue bottle tree. Ginger has just finished her UK Polymer Clay Tour, and when you were in Glasgow, I introduced you to people as walking Polymer Clay Wikipedia. Are you comfortable with that introduction?
Oh, that's always a hard one. You see, I love Wikipedia and I love having access to accurate information. I mean, I'm on Wikipedia all the time. And when it comes to what I do, I really enjoy writing information that helps people understand the medium of polymer clay and use it best to their advantage. But I wouldn't say it's like Wikipedia. I just don't feel comfortable with that. That's a bit much.
That just shows you guys that even world-famous artists struggle with imposter syndrome from time to time.
Yeah.
So how would you describe your website to people who have never heard of it before?
My website is a compilation of hundreds of articles that I've written over the years, basically answering and explaining questions that people have had about the medium of polymer clay, about using it, about baking with it, basically just the material itself, sort of like the technical side of things. I do a fair bit of product testing, I do a fair bit of reviewing of products, and one of my favorite things to do is myth busting. There's a lot of misinformation out there. You know how it is. I had a friend who told me this, and I heard a guy, and that next thing you know, it just perpetuates like the old game of telephone.
Exactly.
And
a life of its own.
It takes a life of its own. And then, so in the beginning, I started the website because I was trying to sort of bust those myths, because there were just so many things that were being said that I really didn't think were true, and I wanted to find out for myself. So I started writing this website, and it's been 14 years now, and there are well over 300 articles about polymer clay. And yeah, it's kind of big. It is big, and it's really, it's a challenge sometimes to try to present all of that information to people in a way that makes it, how do you find things in there? So it's really good when people search. The search bar works really well. So lots of information there to learn about polymer clay.
Definitely, and it's a website that you can always go back to and whenever you run into an issue, because if you have a problem, the chances are that Ginger has already covered it.
Probably.
And what we discovered in the Glasgow event specifically is that people are keen on learning more and they are having technical difficulties. So is that what prompted you to create this UK Polymer Clay Tour?
Actually, the reason why I started this, the UK Polymer Clay meetups, it's the first of an entire series. I hope it'll be a long series. What I found is that an awful lot of people work by themselves with polymer clay. They don't actually know any other clayers. They've never even met anybody who works with polymer clay. So, and I've found that when I go out and I meet people who work with polymer clay, such as you, I find that there's an immediate kinship. You walk up to people who are a complete stranger that you've never met before, and you immediately just you fondle their jewelry because it's like, hey, we have something in common.
Totally, and it doesn't even matter like what the age gap is and where you're from. You suddenly lose all the shyness and you have this connection.
Absolutely.
One of the things that I do enjoy about meeting other polymer clay people in person is that when you meet them and you do touch their jewelry, you usually exchange tips at that time, and then they'll tell you about the things that you haven't come across yet. And I feel like the community is incredibly sharing and is always happy to help one another because there's a place for all of us in this community. It's not a competition, it's more about the friendship that this
Very much
art
so.
medium has created for us. And I feel like that really does come across in your meetups. So tell me more about these meetups. What are you planning in the future?
We've now done 3 meetups in the UK, and we're going to be starting them in the US starting in November. And what I want to do with the meetups is bring people in the community together, both people from existing guilds and groups that are already working with clay together, but also other people who may not know anyone who is working with clay. Bring everybody together, get them talking together, get them sharing ideas, get them comfortable with each other.
Definitely, because it can sometimes feel like a very lonely craft because we're all sitting at home alone. So it's definitely good to have that community objective. So in your UK meetups, you have a. Is it okay for me to reveal the secret? Because I believe that people have seen it on social media, but I'm not sure if you've told your followers about the exhibition.
I haven't. The Traveling Polymer Clay exhibition came about because one of my Blue Bottle Insiders members commented that she had never seen high quality, high level polymer clay art before. All she'd ever seen is the work that she had done. So it left a lot of questions in her mind. What does good clay actually feel like? And I realized that I could contact clayers around the world and ask them to share one of their favorite pieces, bring them together in an exhibition that I would take to these different meetups. And that's exactly what we've done. So each one of these meetups, there is, right now it's at 38 pieces, I believe. There's a collection of really beautiful polymer clay art that you can not just look at, like you can look on, normally you only see polymer clay online in pictures. And these you can pick up, touch, feel, turn it over, really analyze it and get a really good feel for it.
And when you see them in person, the beauty of it is that that it hasn't been edited. When you look at the photograph online, it could have been photoshopped. All the lint or fingerprints could have been brushed off. Whereas when you're touching it in real life, you can see the finish with all its flaws, if there are any.
And my glasses are getting wet and we're getting wet. It's raining. I'm getting wet.
Okay, that's because you're in Scotland, so let's be careful. There you go. That's much better.
Much better. Okay.
Okay, where were we? I really value all the local connections that I've made with people during the Scottish meetup. However, due to geographical restraints, I do understand it's not really accessible for all the people to travel to one of your meetups. So is there a way for people to still connect?
Absolutely. I have a platform called Blue Bottle Insiders. It's not on Facebook, it's on its own platform. And it is a group of polymer clayers at all levels, all stages of their growth and development, from pros to absolute beginners. And they connect by discussion, by Zoom calls, live meetings. We have a whole variety of just interaction on lots of different levels and lots of different ways. There's a book club. We have challenges. There are some courses. I regularly post articles and thoughts to ponder. But one of the most wonderful things about Blue Bottle Insiders is that any questions that you have about polymer clay, about really pretty much anything about your project, just ask the question and somebody is going to know the answer. And I, of course, am involved in that, and I'll help anybody that isn't getting the answers that they need to solve their problem. You can ask for feedback about your project. If you're not sure, is this going to look better? Or what's the best technique? What's the best process? Everybody works together to help each other. It's a really supportive, connected, and compassionate, inclusive community. I really have enjoyed getting to know the people there.
That sounds wonderful, because it's nothing worse for me to get excited about something to do with my hobby and then telling my family, my friends all about it, and they just do not get it.
Yeah.
And when you connect with Polymer Clay community, these people speak the same language, and all you really need is a platform to connect with these people.
Yeah, yeah. We have live meetings where we're just hanging out and talking. So if you are working on your project, you know how sometimes when you're working on something and it's fairly time consuming and you might listen to podcasts or watch a movie, but sometimes you just want that human connection. We have Open Studio where you can just turn on Zoom and you've got another person sitting right there with you and you can chat about whatever you want to chat about. And it's just nice having another person to connect with.
Definitely. That sounds wonderful.
I enjoy it a lot.
Because of the limitations of the short form videos online, I imagine that you actually get asked quite a lot of questions about the things that people do see online. So how do you tackle that, all the messages and comprehensive questions?
One of the things that I find really challenging is that people will ask me questions and I can't really answer in a single word or a short little comment to try to fit the answer in, because it's almost become a running joke now that my answer is, it depends, because things are not black and white. Sometimes the solution to problems is complex and multifaceted, and I need to be able to ask you questions back. And that is really difficult to be handled in Instagram comments or in DMs. It's much better to come to something like Insiders where you do have, I've got the room, I've got full comment fields that I can actually give you a comprehensive answer and interact with you and help you solve the problem in a way that works for you.
This makes a lot of sense, and this is why I do have an issue with the short form content, because when you go on TikTok and Instagram, all these little posts about how to do a certain thing are so misleading because you don't see the full process. You only see the part that creator wants to show you, and that's not the full story. You don't see the behind the scenes of things that are getting added in between those steps. And I think that's where quite a lot of misconceptions come from in the community, and this is why you have to do the myth busting.
Right, that is absolutely true. That is completely the problem.
And what I personally found incredibly beneficial from the meetups, because I do recall the very first event I ever attended, and that was in Germany. It was called Polyclay Carnival. And I remember going there as a complete beginner who has never met anybody else who has worked with clay before. And the moment when I got told that this piece of clay that we have just cured and it has cooled down, we'll apply more clay onto it and we'll hold that back in the oven, it was mind-blowing to me, because the packet of polymer clay comes with actually no instructions whatsoever. It only tells you what the recommended temperature and the recommended curing time is, but it doesn't tell you anything else about conditioning, about the limitations of the materials, about the ability to take the material further, about all the things you can do with it. And I think this is where we do need one another, because the more you know, the more you don't know. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely, absolutely.
I feel like sometimes you probably go down the rabbit hole, you look into one issue and you think that you'll write an article, and then
yes, everything leads to something else. I'm always saying that it's a giant web of connected ideas. Yeah.
Where can people find out more about the upcoming meetups and about the Blue Bottle Insiders?
You can find out more at thebluebottletree.com. I'll see you there.